you. Thank you for coming.
Can we slide back to this?
Yes, we can. Yes, but my questions would be, so is this basically loan forgiveness on a bond that we've already taken out, if that could be confirmed? And if so, which I guess bond are we thinking about? And if it's not that, then I would want to know more.
I think Rob, did you find it?
Yes, but we can slide back to it.
Come back to it. All right, thank you. All right.
Thank you,
All right. All right, let's move on to Article 7. And I will go ahead and read this while you keep researching, Rob. So Article 7 reads, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $19,375 for deposit into the Land and Capital Improvements Fund, and to fund this appropriation by authorizing withdrawal of this amount from the unassigned fund balance. The amount appropriated is the equivalent of 50% of total collected in land use change tax in the fiscal year 2024. And I'm going to turn to Alan because Rob's busy, but this is pretty standard. I think we do this every year.
We do.
Yes.
It's
So,
standard.
right.
And you should note the following article, it's the companion article.
Yes. Companion article, Article 8. Why don't we go ahead and read that while Rob's just doing more research? To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $19,375 for deposit into the conservation fund to fund this appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of this amount from the unassigned fund balance. The amount appropriated is 50% of the total collected in land use change tax in the fiscal year 2024. Those are Articles 7 and 8. Any comments, Rob, on those articles?
No, this is our customary appropriation. It's a year in arrears based on our ability to have an accurate number based on the current use tax change. And it's a practice that we've been doing for a while.
Questions on Articles 7 and 8? I realize we haven't voted on 6. We'll come back to that. Questions on 7 and 8? No, seeing none. All right. Should we keep going, Rob?
I have the answer.
You have the answer. Why don't you go for it? Yes.
It's for the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund, which is we're using in the wastewater treatment.
So it's for a bond that we already took out.
Yes. That was the information that Pete provided to me. To raise, we have to raise and appropriate. The purpose is the climate adaptation plan, and it's to loan forgiveness of $100,000 for a debt service we already have for the state revolving.
Okay, thank you.
And I think I'm hearing in your well, explicitly, Kari, the explanatory language, it is admittedly confusing. So yes. So in language around that,
I will work to make sure I can express that cleanly.
We're going to have the section that's of explanatory information in the annual report.
Yes, we will.
So it could be in there.
Any further questions on Articles 6, 7, or 8? We're going to vote on them in that order. Now, seeing none, Article 6.
Is the motion to support or move it onto the to support? Okay, I move to support Article 6 to be included in the warrant.
Second. Seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, that's 4 in favor, 1 absent. Article 7, which we have already discussed.
I move to support Article 7 for inclusion into the warrant.
Okay.
I second that.
Yes, okay. All those in favor? 4 and 1 absence.
We'll close it out on this one. I'll move to support Article 8 for inclusion in the warrant.
Second. All those in favor? 1 in favor, 1 absent. Article 9.
Article 9, it's to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $34,505 for deposit into the Municipal Transportation Improvement Fund, and to fund this appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of this amount from the unassigned fund balance. This amount is equivalent to the total transportation fee surcharge for each motor vehicle registered in the town of Hanover, $5 per vehicle during fiscal year 2024.
Okay, and again, this is we do this year after year.
This is a standard authorization of the use of these funds in this manner.
Okay, comments, questions? Seeing none, motion. Oh, public comments. I'm sorry. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on this warrant article? Seeing none, take a motion.
Move to accept Article 9 on the warrant.
Okay, second. Second, Jared, all in favor?
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 absent. Article 10.
This is the TIF. We want to come back to this one.
Do you want to do this now or keep going?
If you'd like to plow through the rest and then spend the bulk of our time on this one, because I suspect most everyone's here for the tax increment finance district. Kind of a show of hands for those who are here not for the conversation about improvements to the downtown sidewalk in West Wheelock.
All right, looks like everybody's here for that. So if you don't mind, because that will be an extended conversation, let's keep going with the warrant articles. That conversation may in fact spill over into the meeting a week from now, which this public hearing is effectively going to be extended. So
Yeah.
we will definitely have the discussion now. I don't know that we'll be taking action tonight because there's additional information that we need to bring to bear before we vote. Information may not be developed fully.
I'm happy to keep us going in order and dive right into it. That works. Let me stop share.
All right.
What do you think is best, Harry? There's a lot of other articles.
Yeah, so given that we may not act on it, we can talk about it now, and we'll continue on the other warrant articles later. That gets you guys home in time for the basketball game. So, all right.
Let me talk first in the broad general sense about what the tax increment finance district is. And it's a funding mechanism that's a tool that can be used to do pay for public improvements. And that tool is available to the town for various assets. We use it currently in Hanover, not necessarily fully compliant with state law, but the parking garage is a tax increment finance district. I'll leave it at that. It's statutorily enabled. The town of Hanover adopted the RSA 162K in 1998, authorizing the town to use this subject to town meeting vote. For some of us who've experienced some of the recent water breaks on South Main Street, we have aging infrastructure. The pavement is failing. The water lines have shown some deterioration. Some of our water lines are up to 130 years old. Our sidewalks are breaking and failing. And an opportunity to use this statute to fund debt service to make the improvements, understanding that the first step is to create the district. The second step is to come up with a plan. The third step is to present it back to town meeting for appropriation. And that appropriation would determine whether or not we actually use the TIF district as the funding source or a general obligation bond to move it forward. So this is the first step in the process. And with that, I'd like to step through, it's an economic development tool. Obviously, improving our downtown infrastructure will attract businesses, retain businesses, and help prevent vacancies. It uses the tax revenue created, the incremental tax revenue created above the fixed date in which you create the TIF. So if this were adopted, that fixed date would be April 1, 2025. Any additional increase in taxes that are generated beyond April 1st, 2025 could be swept into a fund to pay for these improvements. The select board has the ability to dial those numbers. So it could be 75% of the total increase or 50% or some other number that equals the cost of or the percent of the school district. I'll use that as an example because it was a recent discussion. So the elements are kept whole, if you will. So that it's an opportunity to look at how we fund these improvements to carry forward in making our infrastructure attractive and retain and keep businesses and grow our business base. So the concept, as I mentioned, there's a base value. So if we were to adopt this at the May town meeting, that base value is everything from before April 1. And then there's the captured value, everything from April 1 going forward. And that captured value can be, again, dialed to a percent of the total. The plan right now shows the 75% of the net increase in value to be retained. And it's used to pay for debt service. Here's a list of communities that use this statute, tax increment finance district. Hanover's one of them. Lebanon's one, Enfield's one. It's used in a lot of places. I think Lebanon has 3 current tax increment finance districts underway, and a 4th one being considered for West Leb. So, went the wrong way. The district boundaries as proposed by me represents West Wheelock corridor and South Main Street, Hanover. As many of you know, there's improvements underway or development underway, I should say, on West Wheelock. That development creates an opportunity for us to look at how we can change the look and feel of that corridor as it is a gateway for the town of Hanover, and really look forward for the next 50 years. And again, looking at South Main Street from the Main Street intersection to Dorrance, the opportunity is to look 50 years down the line and how we reimagine our Main Street. Again, there's just concepts in place, no formal plan in place. And I want to make sure I emphasize that point. The purpose of it is to increase residential use in or near downtown. Some of you may not be aware that the planning board's changed the building height in our downtown zoning district to afford an additional story. Has addressed some lot coverage issues, again, to afford more residential development in our downtown, and looking at how we really approach our West Wheelock and South Main Street neighborhoods to grow their base both residentially and commercially. It's also to help promote investment in our public assets and private investments. I will comment that private development the town cannot force a developer to make improvements beyond what the statute refers to as a rational nexus or direct correlation to their project. I can't exact a fee above and beyond that improvement. So if we do nothing, there will be a piecemeal approach to West Wheelock and perhaps South Main Street. If we look at this as a broader opportunity to come up with a plan, and even though they may be implemented incrementally, we have the opportunity to create a vision for both segments. And this approach gives us that opportunity to create that vision. On West Wheelock, the TIF would fund new drainage systems, for stormwater treatment before discharge into the Connecticut River, new sidewalks, shared use paths, street lighting, burial of the utilities, and new streetscape and landscaping, street trees and landscaping. The concept on West Wheelock really tries to create a user-friendly, multimodal transportation corridor that addresses all user needs, walkers, micromobility, scooters, and other devices, bicyclists, cars, transit, and trucks. So we acknowledge that we need to support all users. And the concept here shows a design, a concept that allows us to accomplish all of these things within our right of way, except for the very end down by the river. Here's a concept plan of a 5'6" sidewalk. This is at the intersection of Main and Wheelock.
Existing.
This is existing, I'm sorry. Thank you. The turning lane remains, a 6-foot bike lane is installed, going eastbound, the travel lane remains, parking remains, and a shared youth path is on the north side, college side. So the idea here is we create opportunities to move this forward. The example here again is 25 West Wheelock, where the project that's now under construction is being built. This is existing condition. The proposed condition would shift the right-of-way to the south and enable a shared youth path 10-foot wide, a 6-foot bike lane, and two travel lanes. I will comment that the way we maintain our streets require us to have 13 feet of pavement from the center line to the curb, because that's the width of the plow with the width. So if you look at this, you'll see 11 foot and 13 feet, but it's the width from the center line to the curb that's important to us in this concept.
Is that why there's only one bike path on one side?
The bike path going north, the Sharrow bike lane going east, Sharrow bike lane going down the hill in traffic, but a multi or shared youth path where you could bike if you were not a high confidence rider on the north side. So I would classify myself as a relatively high confidence rider. I will ride in the lane on going down that hill with traffic. And that's what this design proposes. Again, it's a concept. And then I'll just speak to the last one. This last one does encroach into Dartmouth campus a little bit. This is down by Old Tuck Drive. You can see the right-of-way on the left side of the page. To get the full 10 feet and get everything that we're proposing, we need to have an exchange of land there. And this has been floated with Dartmouth. This maintains the center turn lane, which is necessary. This maintains the 13-foot southbound width, and the north line, eastbound 11-foot, westbound 13-foot travel lane with Sharrow. I know that was fast, and I'm happy to jump into it in a little more detail. South Main Street, storm drainage improvements, water line improvements, sewer line improvements, upgraded underground electrical as it relates to our lighting and our other improvements, sidewalk expansion, bicycle infrastructure, flexible design for non-vehicular use. I think many of you may remember when there used to be a street fest or a closure of South Main Street for events. This redesign could capture that in a way that reinvigorates those types of events in our downtown, and dovetails into some of the other work that's happening right now with what it will be Bankers Park, the space in between the bank. And so that's moving forward. New lighting, new street trees. And a concept plan, we had GPI a firm do some work for us back during COVID, as you may recall. During COVID, we had a push to try to come up with a new plan and actually improve the downtown, take advantage of COVID and build this. And then we realized if we destroyed Main Street, the already struggling businesses would probably collapse. And we took a different approach, which was to try to support them, bolster them by creating the parklets, by creating the opportunity to do business outside and other options for them. So this sort of sat on the shelf, but it did go through a vetting process. It was presented to the select board. It was presented to Bike Walk. There was a public survey. There's a page on the website, 290 something participants in the survey process that we went through. And again, this is a concept. The final design will go through a process, get approved by the select board before it moves forward, go to town meeting for consideration, both on the funding mechanism and the approach. So the important part about this design, in my opinion, is it flips the narrative with regards to how parklets interact with the street. It moves them to the business side of everything. It creates retail space areas in front of the store. So the opportunity to use this public-private partnership, it shifts in a different way. It does create multimodal improvements for bicycles and micromobility. And it also, this concept shifts the nature of parking. It goes from diagonal to parallel. I'm flagging that because I know it's going to be an issue, but that's the concept. And we have 3 alternative plans that were proposed. We would go through a whole exercise where we create a subcommittee that would champion this process, vet it, hold hearings on it, workshops on it, and ultimately present to the select board. And if we have a project that we think is ready, if the select board thinks is ready to bring forward, it would go to town meeting for consideration. So with that, by adopting the plan, the town creates a funding options. It doesn't limit us. It creates the option to use the TIF. No TIF funds will be expended unless authorized by a subsequent town meeting. And without adopting the TIF, the town loses options to consider improvements funded by the TIF district. And I say that because West Wheelock there is some time sensitivity to the projects on West Wheelock. There will be a break point when we couldn't do certain things because decisions will have been made to commit to an approach that we can't undo. I'll use the example of undergrounding the power. If 25 West Wheelock and the subsequent projects that take place make alternative plans because they don't see a project moving forward, we then don't have the option going forward without a huge expense. I will say that there are other projects in the pipeline on South Main Street that I'm aware of, and that the opportunity to try to capture that net increase in value is one that would be could cause us to create a tax increment finance district that isn't fully self-supporting. So with that in mind, I'll go back to the warrant article. And I don't know if you want me to read it.
Come on.
It is pretty long.
Let's read it, but.
Oh, I'm not.
Do you want to?
I didn't say.
I think
I would like reading things.
Yeah, okay.
To see if the town will vote to establish a tax increment financing, which stands for TIF, district pursuant to RSA's 162K for the purpose of financing public infrastructure improvements within the Main and West Wheelock areas, and to adopt a development program and financing plan for the district with the following provisions. 1, district boundaries. The Main and West Wheelock TIF district shall encompass properties along Main Street and West Wheelock Street as further defined in the proposed TIF district plan, which includes maps and parcel lists. 2, purpose. The TIF district is created to fund and facilitate public improvements, including, but not limited to, sidewalks, road enhancements, multimodal transportation infrastructure, utility upgrades, streetscape improvements, and stormwater management systems that support economic development, pedestrian safety, and sustainable growth. 3, duration. The district shall remain in effect until the town determines that the public infrastructure costs identified in the development program and financing plan have been repaid, otherwise deemed complete. Is that grammatically correct? Let's come back to 3, okay? Financing mechanism, which is number 4, 75% of the increased assessed value, captured assessed value within the TIF district shall be allocated to a TIF fund to finance approved infrastructure projects within the district, with the remainder returned to the general fund. 5, bonding requirement. Any bonding for infrastructure improvements within the TIF district shall require prior approval of town meeting in accordance with RSA 33 and RSA's 162K. Administration. A TIF advisory board shall be appointed by the select board to oversee the implementation of the development program and financing plan, review project priorities, and make recommendations for expenditures from the TIF fund. 7, public benefit. The TIF district is expected to enhance economic development opportunities, improve public infrastructure, increase property values, and support the town's master plan goals related to sustainable growth, housing diversity, and transportation improvements.
Thank you, Athos. And I think on point number 3, maybe it's missing the word
I
or.
think it's missing a word there, yeah.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
ChatGPT says or as well.
I just,
Yeah.
ChatGPT recommended that before.
oh, there you go.
Okay, all right, good, okay. Thank you for that. So let me just say that the CIPC had a meeting on Friday. There was a substantive discussion that John Dolan left. John's here. Thank you, John, for leading that discussion. I think it was productive. We recognize there are a number of questions and concerns around this proposal. I think in all likelihood, this public hearing extends to a week from now. And I think in the interim, Rob, you were planning to be meeting with, I'm looking at Ben, are you the current Hanover board? Oh, okay. All right, Kelly. Thank you. That you would be speaking with the full Hanover board on this topic on Wednesday night. That's my understanding. So we recognize that this is going to be the subject of extensive dialogue over the next year, that we are early in this process. I think I understand that there are concerns about how committed we are if we go forward with this warrant article, and what detrimental effects might accrue from that. And I think those were good conversations, and there is more to learn. I know, Rob, I think you have an intention to do some additional analytical work, which is in all likelihood why we move this conversation to next Monday as well.
Correct.
Yeah. Do you want to describe the nature of some of that analytical work that you're intending to do?
Sure. So we're evaluating a projected increase in assessed valuation based on what we know to be projects that may be coming forward or are in the pipeline, and then trying to figure out how much of a sweep we need out of that. What percent of the total increase in value is necessary to support the TIF district as we have looked at it and come up with the cost estimates. And further, if there is a deficiency or a gap, what options we have in covering those gaps. So we're trying to figure out, I'll speak directly to it, can we sweep 50% of the net increase in value, still support the project, and preserve much of the funding that would go towards the school district budget?
So, and I know that partially addresses perhaps some of the concerns that we've heard, but and I think the devil is probably in the details as to what that means. So I too am looking forward to that. I know that in conversations prior, we talked about having this as an option, but not necessarily being committed to it. We recognize that there's a lot of work that needs to happen before fully committing to this, both as a project and as a financing mechanism. And we intend to consider the alternative of not doing the TIF and what that might imply as well. Questions? Ben, if you would.
Hi, all. From TV, Mulhara Farm Road, Hanover. Appreciate all the work you do. I've been there before. Still am. Ben Keeney, Keeney.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I appreciate all the work you do. For the moment of time, I'm not actually going to talk too much about my personal opinions about the TIF. I see a lot of good things. I see a lot of not so good things in my opinion. However, I am also the chair of the Dresden School Board, which covers the middle school and the high school. And I am talking as an individual, not as a board member, because we have not had any discussions with the town on this matter, which, as far as I can tell, I'm not an attorney and I'm not a zoning expert, but this meeting as of now appears to be in violation of the very regulation that the town manager referenced, RSA 162K. If you look at 162K sections 9 and then subclauses 2 and 3, I will read this. It's about a paragraph long. Before approving any tax increment financing plan, a public hearing, what's happening right now, shall be held as part of the hearing on the development district under RSA 162K4. Section 3. Before formation of a development district, the municipality shall provide a reasonable opportunity to the county commissioners of any county in which any portion of the development district is located, and to the members of the school board of any school district in which any portion of the development district is located to meet with the governing body. The governing body shall fully inform the county commissioners and the school boards of the fiscal and economic implications of the proposed development district. The county commissioners and the school boards may present their recommendations at the public hearing, which is happening right now. A municipality's tax increment financing plan, or TIF, may include agreements with the county commissioners and the school boards in which the district is located to share a portion of the captured tax increments of the district. The schools have not been consulted officially. We have not been informed officially. There has been no meeting. So we cannot give any guidance or feedback on this hearing, which is supposed to happen before what is happening tonight occurred. In my personal opinion, as a person of one, that is not right. We seem to have the train left the station without consulting all the appropriate constituent school boards and otherwise. And there doesn't seem to be any huge rush to do this. So I recommend we slow down, we take it piece by piece. We have other issues regarding the schools, as you alluded to, and we want to make sure everything stays right on that front. We can't do that. There's been no conversation, no information presented. As Mr. Shosman mentioned, he's coming to the Hanover School Board, which is separate from what I'm talking about this Wednesday. The Dresden one, which again is the middle school and the high school, we're scheduled to meet with him on the 22nd, which falls outside both this week and next week's proposed continuance of this meeting. And that makes very little sense to me, especially if this is intended to be retroactive multiple weeks ago. So I think we should slow this down and let's do it right. Thank you.
No, hey, I just want to make a statement. I have ownership on the notice. I naively made a mistake when I sent my email to the school, to the SAU board. I assumed that the structure was SAU boards, school district boards, and I copied Jay Adams. My assumption was that that was asking for and inviting a conversation, included a link to the plan. I subsequently learned that that was not correct. So I think I emailed every member of both boards.
You missed a few, but that's not relevant. But
So I am working to address that, but we're going to walk through that tonight and next week.
I appreciate that nuance. That doesn't negate the point I wish to make them.
Right, and so, and Ben, as the chair of the Dresden board, it's complicated with the interstate district. So I guess a question for you is whether the Hanover board, and I know that you sit on the Hanover board, as the taxing entity for residents of Hanover, is the fiscally responsible board.
I would point out that per the clause I just mentioned, it is all school boards, which even regardless of any of our personal feelings on it, would include the Dresden board.
And the SAU board.
SU board would not necessarily have a school. So that one I think is slightly more negotiable. But for Hanover and Dresden, for sure, there's an obligation there. And Mr. Hausman is scheduled to attend the Dresden one as well. Just that comes after the time cycle I'm talking about.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Yes, if you have a comment, please come forward and state your name and where you live, please.
My name is Doug Lance. I live on 179 Lime Road, and we pay taxes here in this town, so I'm here for that reason. I also want to let you know this is what I look like without a hat on. There's not much going on. I'm here. I've spent a lot of time this last week looking at things, and I hope the world that I grew up in was in business, and I find the lifeblood of any community is the main street and what goes on in the town. And one day I drove through town with my wife and said, that's what I want to do. I want to be the parking meter guy when I retire. So that's what I've done for 8 years. I feel like I'm the ears, eyes. I'm 8 hours a day. I'm on the sidewalks. That's my office. And I talk to a lot of business owners, and a lot of them can't be here tonight, but I know what this town should be considering more than taking parking away is making it a better place and an easier place to get to. There's a lot of people that I speak to, the number one reason that they may not come back to Hanover, they say there's no place to park. And the thought of losing the parking that's on South Main and the business district and making it parallel parking, I think it's not a good answer. And I hope that you reconsider what you're doing or thinking about doing with parking. We want more people here, and they're not going to be able to be here if you take parking away. And I understand the bicycle thing, and put a bike rack at one end of town and one at the other end, and just walk like everybody else if you want it. Or the people that I know that are serious bikers go around town; they don't go through town. And I just hope that you guys slow down a little bit, as this gentleman just said, and consider the repercussions that might happen when you take away. It's got nothing to do with what I do. It's more your business and you guys, your businesses, and it's just I hope that you guys consider that as a really important thing versus how lovely and beautiful it's going to be with the trees growing on the streets. And I'm going to not get emotional, so I'm going to sit back down and thank you guys very much.
Others who have comments on this warrant article? Hardy.
Kari Asmus, Etna still. So first I want to address you as with comments from a high confidence bicyclist. Is that cyclist? Is that what it's called? Because in a previous hearing, we heard our town manager's personal experience. And I just want to say that I too, when I go down Main Street, and I've been doing this for 26 years, ride in the lane. And I think that the diagonal parking is wonderful from a bicyclist perspective, because the driver knows that they can't see you or anything else. So they're going very, very slowly. And as they back up, they have their backup lights on, so you know what they're doing, as opposed to when you're on Lebanon Street in front of the high school and the cars are parked parallel and people are thinking about where they're going, and they open up their car door without looking to see if there is a bicyclist there. And, some of the worst injuries that I know of bicyclists to have received is when they get doored. So for me, the diagonal parking as a cyclist is great. So since I've heard so many comments to the contrary, I just felt like I needed to give you a different perspective on that. The other question that I have for tonight, and it may very well be that there's not an answer to this tonight, but I would like to add it to the questions of of understanding this, the TIF district ramifications better. And just as background, again, as somebody who has been observing things for over 25 years, we have seen three different times, well, twice when the net assessed valuation of the town went down for the 2013 revaluation after the 2008 market adjustment. And then after all of the abatements from the 2018 revaluation. And then since then, in the early 2020s, the TIF district that we had saw a decrease in assessed valuation. Because it had some unretained funds, they were able to increase the captured assessed value. So everything got paid. But and I think it is here, in section 162K:12, it says the cost of the maintenance and operation of the non-revenue producing facilities, together with the excess of costs of operation and maintenance of the revenue producing facilities, if any, shall be charged against the development district in which it is located. The charges against each property within the district shall be proportional to the benefits to the property. The district administrator shall submit to the governing body the maintenance and operating budget for the following year and prorate shares of the budget to be charged to each property in the district. And then, elsewhere, it says that basically kicks in if the TIF district isn't generating the revenue that they thought it would. And so given that we've seen 3 times when different places have had assessments go down, I'm just wondering, weird things are happening today in the world that we live in. Should you have a budget for the TIF district? Should there not be enough assessed valuation to raise the needed monies? Would you need to go to each property owner? And do people realize potentially that's part of it? Or is that section of statute just very impenetrable and doesn't say what it appears to say? So again, I doubt you have that answer tonight, but I think that's an important consideration for anybody who owns property in the proposed district.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Kari. Right, things are happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Are there other members of the public who yes, if you could please come forward.
Hi, Wood Spalding from Aetna. Just a quick question on, is one of the options, if one of the options is after this passes, that there's an option for a general revenue bond in lieu of, you guys just talk about the mechanism for making that change from TIF to general revenue bond, what that would be.
Thanks, Whit. Do you want to address that now?
Sure. So process would be to rescind the TIF and to put forward a warrant article with a plan that would be funded by a general revenue bond.
So it would be the next subsequent year's town meeting?
If we had a plan to present that was endorsed by the select board, it would be the subsequent town meeting.
But you would need the TIF would have to be the precursor to enable that to happen.
The TIF allows us to start, it sets the capture date. That's the focus.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Whit. Other questions or comments? John.
John Dolan, Aetna. And I want to add to the comments that Ben made earlier about the process. He read you the law, and like him, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't advise you on its detailed applicability. However, as the chair of the Capital Improvement Program Committee about 10 days ago, It was after your March 24th meeting that I became aware of the TIF proposal and the details involved. And when I read through them, I concluded that it was something that the Capital Improvement Program Committee needed to learn about and take up for discussion, for questions, before it actually went into law, as Article 10 would enable it to do. So I organized a meeting of the Capital Improvement Program Committee last Friday. And as part of arranging that meeting, I reached out to Kim Hartman, who is with us tonight. She is the school board member of the Capital Improvement Program Committee, or she was until March 31st when she went off the school board. So I reached out to her. I knew she was going to be stepping down, and asked who her replacement was going to be. And I told her why I was calling a meeting that we hadn't planned, hadn't scheduled for the Capital Improvement Program Committee. It was at that point where she informed me that, as far as she knew, the school board had not heard anything about the TIF. No contact, no information. She asked me to call Kelly McConnell, who is also here tonight, the new chair of the Hanover board, and to find out from her who might be replacing Kim. In talking to Kelly, or in email exchanges actually, I discovered that she had no knowledge of the TIF proposal either. And all of this was going to proceed, and as far as I knew, they were not going to be informed before tonight's meeting, when it was scheduled that you were going to take it up and approve Article 10. So you might well have proceeded that way, and tonight you could have, or I guess you still could, you could approve Article 10, and you would do it without having formally or officially informed either the school boards or, as far as I know, the county, which also is entitled to full information from the governing body. That, again, I don't know if it's legal or not, but it does seem to be a deviation from the process that's described in the state law. And I don't have a position on whether the TIF is the right way to go for the town of Hanover. I think the TIF could be, but it maybe is not. I have a sense of the development program that is encapsulated in the TIF, the improvements to the streets, to the West Wheelock corridor, to the Main Street corridor. But that's really beside the point. The development program is not what Article 10 is about. Article 10 is about the formation of the TIF, the financing mechanism for this development program that is just conceptual right now. I would, as an individual, I would say to you, I think the TIF may be the right way to go, but if you go to town meeting without having followed the proper process for informing all the interested parties before you take it to town meeting, and those interested parties and perhaps others rise at town meeting to say, we don't like the way this process is proceeded and we're going to vote it down, you risk ruining the opportunity to go back to the town meeting next year with a fully formed plan and a fully completed process of information to have TIF approval. And I would recommend, as an individual, that you not do that. You don't have enough time, as things stand right now, to complete the process satisfactorily. And I think it's a risk that you take of losing the opportunity to do the TIF properly. And if it is the right way to go, you might lose the opportunity to use it. So leave it there.
Great, John. Other members of the public who might wish to speak? Yes, you could please identify yourself.
Yes, Mia Vogt. I live on School Street and also have a property on South Main Street. And I'm a business owner. And I'm not convinced that it would be good for business to do the wider, I'm speaking specifically to the South Main Street, because I don't know the corridor, the other corridor, that's it looks great. I don't know, I don't really have an opinion on that. But as far as South Main Street, I'm not convinced that having the wider sidewalk and the bike lanes and the parallel parking will be good for the economy or my business. So could be convinced, but at this point, I would say that I'm not in favor of it.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Thanks.
I know
Thanks,
this
Rob.
is kind of inherently confusing because the warrant article really is about the TIF district mechanism and then what gets built out. And I know we're presenting conceptual drawings that are just conceptual and I understand that you're seeing it and you're saying, hey, wait a minute. We will probably divide these into two issues necessarily, but your input is nonetheless
Well, I'd be
appreciated.
one of the TIF people too, right? Like, because it's.
Yes, you would be. That's right.
So-
You would be a part.
Yeah, I guess it is two separate issues.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'd also feel that way about the TIF thing too. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody's such good speakers. I definitely am not. Ryan Romano, 8 Dairy Lane, Hanover. I also own Hanover Haircutters. So multiple things, questions. We are funding this with tax money, correct? A TIF, correct? I like to use like layman's terms, kind of.
Yeah.
So that means property values, taxes will increase, correct?
So it's, why don't you describe it? It's the coming from the incremental value in the corridor in the district.
So if you could imagine, the general fund would be the current contribution as of April 1 would be fixed. So there would be no decrease in the general fund appropriation coming from the current tax base. Any increase or net increase in value through redevelopment or expansion, new growth would be what's captured to fund the district. So, for example, the value of 25 West Wheelock, the vacant lot as of April 1st, 100% of that property would be, at its completion, would be swept in, or whatever share we choose to sweep in would be swept in to help fund the tax increment finance district. So the value that it's currently paying into the general fund remains coming in, which is its current, the April 1 value. And at the completion date value would be swept in. There are other projects that are coming forward, including downtown, that will include expansion, additions, tear downs, additional floors that are in the pipeline today.
Sure. So property values will eventually, they're going to go up no matter what. So I guess my question.
Not necessarily yours. The property values in the district.
No, I'm not talking about I'm talking about downtown, correct? So we're trying to attract businesses to town, correct? We're trying to attract people to town. So first off, there's a couple of different parts to this. If the property taxes go up on buildings, the landlords have to charge more rent, correct? So the rents are going to get higher. So we're trying to attract businesses to downtown. When the rents increase, are more people going to come, or are they going to not come? That's one of my first.
Let me see if I can clarify the statement. The tax rate will not go up. The values of the building will grow.
The assessed values.
The assessed values will grow if they convert to multifamily, expand, tear down and expand, which is one of the projects that's in the pipeline on South Main Street. It's a tear down rebuild with another floor, mostly residential. So that will grow the tax base without shifting the burden to the existing occupants by increasing the overall value of the building, by increasing its footprint, by increasing its square footage, and by adding more usable space.
So you have to build more space to capitalize on that.
Or convert. So the value of residential in the downtown is much higher than multifamily is growing very rapidly. So if we saw conversion of space that are on second floor and third floor from office to residential, we would see an uptick in value.
So if I want to move into town and open up a business, I don't have a business, let's say, and I move in, I'm probably going to end up paying more.
I don't.
I mean, that's just I'm speculating that. That's one thing. So are we going to bring more people to town that way? Last year, I had multiple people come to my business and tell me that they would not be back because of lack of parking. I think I heard that we're going to lose about 31 parking spots with this proposal as well, which makes it even smaller. And then the bottleneck of parallel parking. I grew up in downtown Boston. I can tell you, people cannot park. They cannot park. All right, it's very easy to pull in with an angled parking spot, but the parallel park, I just want to get out and help people sometimes. I want to just say, please get out of the car. Can I park for you? Okay, I mean, because it's just crazy. I mean, to think about that. On top of all that, are we still going to be doing the outdoor seating as is for like the restaurants and things like that? Because that takes up a lot of parking spots as well. I know that it's great for your business and everything, but I mean, I can't throw barber chairs out in a parking spot and like cut hair, can I? I'm just after this because I mean, Boloco takes all these spots. They have all kinds of seating on the side. They don't need the spots. The Works just expanded and they're huge inside. Do they really need? If you want to have outdoor seating, buy a restaurant that has outdoor seating. I mean, that's just the way I feel about it. You know, I mean, I can't just, expand my barber shop and go on the sidewalk because it's available to me. So I don't know, just my 2 cents on things. I'm not a very smart guy, but I'm just.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other members of the public might wish to speak. Yes, Kim.
Hi, I was mentioned before by John, but I'm Kim Hartman. I am now no longer on the school board, so I'm wearing my individual hat. But I do want to clarify something first, just to set the record straight. So when I was on the school board, I received a quick conversation from Carrie Callahan saying we might be doing some sort of TIF, but that does not remotely touch upon the legal requirements to have financial impact data. Nevertheless, one board member is, as you all know, not a board. So I just want to clarify that. So yes, it was, I think, a day before the school's annual meeting. So that would be in February, March, of, hey, this thing might be something, but yes, never. And actually, keep in mind that the law also says a governing body. Okay, not town manager. So, I wanted to be clear more for those who this is, kind of all new. What this article really is about is not about the project itself. That is the purpose of the TIF, right? That's what's motivating this. But what was actually being asked for is to draw this TIF fence around. And this would be what is proposed as the agreement. In there, it says that the financing mechanism, so 75% of the increased value that will be captured. So think of that as the taxable assets that a municipal school, county can use, right? So 75% is going to go back to the project, but 25% will be returned to the general fund. And I think I just want to quickly ask, the general fund is what to be defined?
That's our main operating.
Right, so it's totally to the town. So what this means is that 100% of this fenced-in assessed area would only have the ability to raise town municipal taxes, not the school district, not the county. So what's going to happen is this is really just funding, right? The school districts in the county are going to have a higher tax rate, and the town will still make itself whole because it already receives roughly 20%. Schools usually receive 66% of the eligible taxes. And all this is doing right now, we're not actually funding the project, right? There's no bond, there's no actual dollar amount of the project to be discussed. What it's just saying is when we do something, all of the money within all this taxable revenue will just go to the towns. It will not go to the schools. It will not go to the county. This is an agreement that has been drafted solely by the town. Totally understand why you'd want to do that. And there is revenue sharing in this because the town is still being made whole. There are other options if hopefully the town can come to the table with the school board and with the county to figure out if revenue sharing makes sense in this type of project. And as a member of the CIPC, we asked the question on Friday, well, how much is this district? What is the April 1st taxable revenue? And our town assessor was there, and we did not get an answer. I think that was a question that multiple members had asked, and we were told, we don't have that information right now. We'll get it to you. Do we have that information now? Do we know how much the TIF district is right now?
I believe John has made the request for that information, and our assessor is committed to providing that by Wednesday.
Okay, so that, and you're meeting with the Hanover School Board on Wednesday, so that would be helpful, although not the entire piece. It would just be what taxable revenue are we talking about? And keep in mind, what are we saying that this project is actually going to increase the revenue? So in other states, there's a requirement of but-for. And actually, the New Hampshire Municipal Association encourages a but-for clause to make TIF financing make sense. Because you're just stealing from the schools and the county. That's really what's happening. There's no extra, right? There's no extra because otherwise the towns and the school, the county and the schools would already receive that funding. They would already have that asset. What's basically you're just saying you're going to restrict that asset. And what I'm hearing is that the project is still in a we're working it out phase. This is how we're supposed to do it. We're going to establish the fence and then work it out later. Unfortunately, that runs counter to what the New Hampshire Municipal Association recommends as best practices. They say bird in hand. We need to have the project. It actually runs counter to what the town of Hanover did for the parking garage. It said that they knew the exact timeline, that when the bond was going to be created, when that would be completed. Because as the New Hampshire Municipal Association says, why would school districts and counties go along with this? Why would they do this? They're going to have higher taxes. And it's because there's an endpoint. It is because the project, but for this project, there would not be incremental valuation. The incremental valuation that's being considered is already raised. It's already in the ground and there's already foundations. The change has nothing to do with the project. The TIF project, it's not to do with wider sidewalks and prettier trees. And Jared actually asked in the February meeting, he says, we're not saying that we're going to create extra extra valuation because we're going to have wider sidewalks. No, of course not. I'm totally sympathetic to details of the project that need to be done, or aging sewer systems, that kind of thing. But that is project world. Right now we're talking about TIF. And all we're talking about is creating this fence. And we're talking about what we're in the rush for the TIF is because the town can make a sweeter deal on the TIF by capturing all of the work that's already going based upon what the zoning changes that happened 2 years ago, not because we're going to build prettier sidewalks and better sewer systems. So what you're doing is you're communicating, we need to hurry up and capture this revenue, which has nothing to do with our project, so that we can sweeten a project that really maybe should just be presented to the town and say, we need to raise this money. And therefore the town's tax rate would go up. But then school board members can say, to answer the question, why are our taxes going up and why are they going up faster than the towns? The answer to that question would be, well, because the town did a project. The town did a project, so that's why the school district's rates go up. Instead, if you just do a normal bond, the answer to why did the town's tax rate go up? Well, the town did a project. Seems much more transparent, much easier to understand, much more fair. And especially with this process that's happened to date, I strongly encourage talking with the school districts, talking with just understanding the process, getting data. I really hope you guys ask for more data, figuring out what the actual tax rate change would be for the school district, figuring out exactly how much land are we talking about? Do you even need that much? How much size sewer, then when we talk about the project, sewer systems, I sat as part of CIPC listening to what our towns needed this next year, and we supported a project to improve an investigative study to figure out how much capacity does our sewer system need. We know that we don't have a problem, I'm summarizing the problem, right? We know we don't have a problem, but we don't know how much growth or capacity we have in our system. Yet we're talking about a project that will increase the growth and capacity. Is that the right amount? We haven't done the study yet to know what we would need. So there's just a lot of things that are a little bit too quick on the process. There's a lot of discussions that need to be had. And to go forward with this TIF to then say, well, next year we can just delete it. It doesn't really feel like that's the right way to do a project like this. So thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Kim. I just want to be clear on a couple of things. So this would be capturing the increase, right? The incremental increase in value. So I've heard a couple of people say all the money is now going away from the school district and going into this, but we're only talking about the incremental value, right?
A percentage of income.
The percent, so half or up to 75% of the incremental value.
Well, but to Kim's point, the way item number 4 on the financing mechanism as written, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but that TIF directs 75% into the TIF and as worded currently, the remainder into the general fund, which means the town. So there's nothing for the schools. But you are looking to.
We're looking at
that.
Yeah. So one of the chair and I have had the opportunity to speak about mechanics of this and timing. The challenge that I'm running into, and something we can talk about after we get through this public hearing, is we have some statutory deadlines that we have to hit. We have plenty of time to hit those deadlines. And then we have this deadline associated with the publishing of our town report. And in the ideal world, which precedes our public hearing deadlines, so that's been driving some of our schedule. And in the ideal world, we always include the town warrant in the town report. However, we have the ability to pull it out and then hand insert it. So that would give us an extra couple weeks, but the board needs to have a conversation as to whether we proceed or not once we get through the public hearing. And the hearing, if you continue to the next meeting, would give us an 1 week to do some more numbers. Also report back on our meeting with the Hanover School District.
Sounds great.
Well, be the Hanover board, but not the dress board. So that's a question.
What?
What'd you say? We would meet with the Hanover board prior to the next select board meeting. We would not have met. Correct. So that's a question. Yes,
I think there's.
What's the statutory deadline?
I think it's 25 days prior to town meeting. We meet on the 13th. Which would make it late April. I can pull it up.
Yeah, about the 18th.
It's actually here, the 24th.
It's 21st.
And yeah, I spoke with our council and this afternoon on that specific.
2 weeks from today.
So, but the deadline for publishing the town report and getting it in time to distribute.
Yep.
It has to be distributed at least 7 days prior to town meeting. It has to go to the printers on the 16th. So we have the ability to publish the town report without the warrant.
Yeah.
And we can hand insert it ourselves.
Can we do it? Can we make that a draft, say, in the town report, so it goes out so people can read it, and then the finalized version will be.
I think the board has to have a conversation about whether the timeliness of the tip.
Because I understand the rush based on the change in tax value and wanting to capture this date when we have basically just dirt, and the change in the tax value. But also, I think we've heard that there's a lot that's missing before we can, but also I understand that all we're asking the town to do is to enable the process to continue, and we're not actually committing to anything yet.
I think that's the absolute key point.
Yeah.
We're setting up the mechanism. We talked about this 12 months ago. We're setting up the mechanism.
I think Kim wants to comment.
I can't finish.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead. Have a seat, Kim, and please finish up. Yes.
Thank you.
No question.
Quickly. And I mean, there's a lot of constraints here, but setting up the process is what we're trying to do. And we've talked about this for a very long period of time. Yes, we need to meet with all the other boards as well. But I think this is something we should keep going on.
So to answer a question with a question of an answer that I got on Friday. So I asked what the spoilers, we don't know. But the question was, if this gets approved, this gets sent and it gets approved, what happens to all that revenue or potential revenue that's in the TIF district? Because we don't have a bond ready project likely in the next year. And if it is a bond, likely need to be a town vote again. So we're talking about another year before it actually happens, right?
Yeah.
Of course, you could always just ask for the TIF then when you're shovel ready and ready for the bond, which is what we've done in the past with parking garage. But if we didn't, what happens to that revenue? And the true answer we got was, we don't know. We don't know if it sits there. We don't know if it flows back. We don't know how it flows back. Does it just flow back to the 75-25? Does it flow back to the schools? The answer at the time at the CIPC meeting was, we will ask legal. At this point in the stage, to not know what happens when we know we're not ready with a bond right now, I think just illustrates how troubling of a time frame this is. So, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't want to belabor the conversation, but I do want to point out the difference between the parking garage and this project. In that we bought an asset that was built. We didn't design it. We participated up in the understanding what it would cost in the structure. But everything that we did running up to that was really the analysis of how we afford purchasing. The college built the parking garage. We bought a complete project. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
Here we need to design a project so we can get the costs ready and the TIF allows this approach.
Kelly.
I will be quicker because I understand it less well. You can rewatch Kim's. Kelly McConnell. I am the chair of the Hanover School Board. I have 3 kids in the school district. As Ben said, I'm here speaking as an individual, not as a board, and looking forward to our conversation this week. It just seems to me, in listening to everyone, that there are a lot of unanswered questions. From the school side of things, we're already in a period where I think there's a lot of uncertainties about education funding right now. A lot of, changes at the federal level. I think a lot of, executive orders coming down that we're dealing with, and we're not really sure how any of that is going to affect state funding or federal funding at this point. We're looking at a general population, many of whom are on fixed incomes at this point, who don't know how some of the global changes in their own financing is going to affect their ability to pay taxes. And it just feels like, if I look at how, even if this goes through, it goes really well. What do we have? We have increased populations in our schools. That's a wonderful thing, right? We would love to have increased housing for working families. Well, that means we have more kids in our schools, which is great. And we don't have the funding base to fund that, right, in this formula. So there are a lot of unanswered questions here that just give me a lot of trepidation as someone who is responsible for helping to create responsible budgets for our schools, and recognizing the burden that puts on taxpayers. And just, there's so much I can't answer if a taxpayer came to me right now. And that really concerns me. And of course, the parallel parking for my 17-year-old, which is, a safety issue. I'll just leave that there. So thank you guys for your work on this.
Thanks, Kelly.
I'm gonna get Ryan to come help him.
Okay. So in light of this discussion, I had previously understood from Rob that, we would like to hold a select board meeting a week from tonight. This may be the primary focus of that. Are we in agreement that we're going to put this in abeyance for a week and take this back up again next week? Any questions, comments, or concerns on that? I'm just looking at the hour, thinking we do have other warrant articles to discuss.
I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
But is another week long enough? Because isn't the Dresden board not meeting before that?
Well, so that is a question that I think we need to what's that?
Make them meet.
Well, okay, all right. So
How's that reasonable?
So that's, I think, Rob, that's obviously something to understand. It's,
Yeah, we're working on it as we speak. Right.
okay, John.
Don't forget the county.
County was reached out to on December 10th. The county commissioner and all 3, or the county commissioners and the administrator. And I've reached out again.
All right, unless there are any other comments, questions, concerns, I would recommend we move beyond article number 10, for which we will not take a vote, and move on to warrant article number 11. Good? Yep.
Can I read it?
Please.
To see if the town will vote, and I didn't start it wrong. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,175,515 and authorize payment into existing capital reserve funds in the following amounts for the purposes for which such funds. So I have to read the whole thing.
You can say as written.
As written. I move that we have to discuss it. Well, we can move it and then discuss it. I move that we support Article 11 as written. I'll second. And then we can discuss it and have a public hearing on it.
All right. Yes.
And can I actually start the comment? Ellen Bullion, Director of Finance. As I was reviewing this, I realized that I have an amendment to this warrant article. And the amendment is to add $500,000 to the sewer equipment and facilities improvement capital reserve fund deposit to that reserve fund. This was part of the discussion in the budget where we have increased the fees in order to deposit this $500,000 to defray future debt payments. And this number was included in all of the numbers that were approved 2 weeks ago. So this is just an amendment or correction to this article. So
You're talking about the second to last number?
it's the second to last number, and that would become $857,000. And then in addition, the top number is increased by 500,000. So the total amount to be deposited to the capital reserve funds would be $2,675,000, 515.
So 2,675,515.
Correct.
So, and that 500,000 is coming out of the wastewater reserve, undesignated funds.
Actually, this is correct, but the additional balance there is being created by the fees. Increase in fees.
Yep.
So again, no impact on tax rate, not even any impact on the numbers that we reviewed, but just an amendment to this warrant article.
Okay, do you accept the amendments?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Is there any, thank you, Ellen. Any further discussion on this warrant article? Okay, second.
I already gave my second.
You get your second. All right, all those in favor? Okay, aye. 4, do 4, yes.
Should have in the public hearing.
I'm sorry, were there any questions with respect to Article 11 appropriating 2
I had a hard time hearing Ellen from here, so you couldn't say what's being.
You have $500,000 to the sewer equipment and facilities improvement capital reserve fund, which was already part of the budget discussion. And that increases the total by 500,000 as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I just couldn't.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
Thanks for speaking up, Kari.
Yes, thank you. All right, we have taken the vote, but thank you. All right, so that's 441 abstention. Okay, Article 12. I feel like you're on the ball.
To see if the town, I move that we accept Article 12 as written, which is to raise and appropriate funds to, this is the withdrawal.
The expenditure.
The expenditures, thank you.
In the amount of
In the amount of $1,684,244. Is that the correct number, Ellen?
I just have had the opportunity to eat humble pie tonight, but go ahead and I think you have to approve it and then I'm going to amend it. Or maybe
Okay.
I amend it first.
Why don't you?
So, gosh, I was embarrassed to say that I have missed including one of the capital reserve fund withdrawals. And it happens to be the same one that early in my tenure I missed in the 2023 budget. So I would like to amend this article to add a withdrawal from the Road Construction and Improvements Capital Reserve Fund of $28,000. This is for the Lebanon Summer Street video detection system. And that $28,000 is already included in the $1,684,244. So it is not an amendment of the amount of the article, but rather to make sure that that capital reserve fund is included in the warrant article.
So it's still $1,684,244.
It is.
And I'm really hoping it will see me once it's in place because it hasn't been lately.
Okay, so thank you for that technical correction, important technical correction. Are there any questions for Alan? All right, office has made a motion. Not a second.
A motion with the amendment.
Yes, as amended.
As amended. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
And now
Jenny.
you got to do a meeting. Public meeting.
Sorry, yes. Any members of the public wish to opine on this? No? Okay, all those in favor? All right, 4, 1, abstention. Article 13.
To see if the town will vote to discontinue the Bridge Capital Reserve Fund established under RSA 35:1 for the purpose of funding bridge maintenance and improvements and to transfer all remaining funds to the general fund undesignated fund balance.
Why don't you keep going with 14, because it's unrelated.
To see if the town will vote to change the purpose of the road construction improvement capital reserve fund established under RSA 35:1 to include both road and bridge maintenance, repair and reconstruction. To rename it the Road and Bridge Construction and Improvement Capital Reserve Fund, appropriate $213,446.64 plus interest equal to the funds transferred to the general fund undesignated fund balance, and to designate the select board as agents to expend from said fund. 2/3 vote required.
So, we need to make a motion before we discuss it.
We can discuss it prior to the motion.
We need a second first. Discuss.
Oh, yeah, we do. Okay, all right, second. I got your seconds. Jenny, would you like to second? Then we'll discuss.
Sure.
Okay, seconded by Jenny. Discussion.
I'd like to offer an amendment just for clarity. I know we just talked about the road detection system. That's not actually part of the road, right? It's above the road. And this came up a lot with the federal highways, and they made a point to clarify that it's like the right of way, because sometimes it will involve a bicycle lane or a sidewalk. So while we're renaming, I thought it would make sense to rename it as the right of way.
Could you state the whole name that you want?
I would suggest to rename it the Right of Way and Bridge Construction Improvement Capital Reserve Fund. Or we could do like a whole list of things that it may include, but then we might, not get everything.
These, unfortunately, we need to vet this with DRA, Department of Revenue Administration, because they're pretty particular. So 13, in the ideal world, I have one warrant article to merge the two, but I can't do that because of the nature of the funds. So the town can't do that because of the nature of the funds. So what we need to do is discontinue one, rename the other, and we need to be careful that we don't overly change the purpose. Otherwise, we need to discontinue both and create a third, moving all the money into that third.
Well, then I suggest that we do that.
Okay.
So we just need one that looks a lot like 13.
Yeah.
But for the road one. Just because it's on the federal level, it had caused a lot of problems prior to that renaming. And I'd hate for us to misconstrue this idea that we can't like fix a sidewalk with some money that we put in our road. If it's attacked, then we're doing it at the same time, or anything like that. But yeah, that would be like adding
Just
an additional one. So basically you have to dissolve both of them and then rename them into one.
Well, what does federal funding have to do with?
It's just an example of how people think of the roads.
Well, so you're saying like future select boards may not approve sidewalk maintenance out of the road maintenance fund?
Yeah, or even bike lane. Like we've had it where we resurfaced the road and not resurfaced the bike lane. Is that the road? Is it not the road? I'd rather not have an existential question when we're dealing with the public right away and just deal with it in the way that makes the most sense.
Yeah. If we move forward with this, we can move forward with an either or option subject to DRA and town council. So we don't have.
Yeah, the other thing, like we had dissolved the sidewalk fund a long time ago.
Yep.
And I think the idea is like a lot of that stuff is caught in this, but it's not clear.
So Kari, you've got a question, yes,
I
okay,
think
yeah.
I have some relevant information. So, the road construction, and improvements fund, that was founded or started in 2004. Its purpose is for future reconstruction and improvement of town roadways. So you could keep that purpose in there, and by roadways, it's broader than, the pavement that the autos drive over. It is, everything that's considered in the roadway. So you could keep that and bridges. The thing that I don't know if this is what Jenny would ideally like to see, is to have it also apply and be a sidewalk fund. And that may be where that's too much of a change of a purpose, because a bridge or a culvert is still, it's really the road, only it's going over a culvert or, something where water is running under. So bridge and roads, roadways, that's all pretty consistent. Sidewalks is sort of a new concept. But I think that to address this issue of the, federal funds or whatnot, because the purpose is for roadways, at least that's broad enough that it includes, some of the other things like the surveillance, et cetera. So, I guess I don't think that there's a, huge problem with this new language, but it's, if you said to include both road, but say roadways, that is broader than road. So that might get you part of the way there, but I don't know that it would get you all the way to sidewalks.
So your suggestion might be under Article 14, where it says, second line toward the end, to include both road and bridge maintenance.
Or roadways.
To amend that to roadway and bridge maintenance.
Right, repair and reconstruction, so that you would get part of the way there, but I don't know that you would actually get this to be a sidewalk fund, because that's a pretty different usage, but it would get you part of the way there.
Yes, okay.
Okay, and then I have my own question thought, but I'll let you.
Well, so yes,
Yeah.
we'll stay there.
Okay.
Don't move. Rob, Jenny,
I'd like it to be the right way. Like, the idea is that a lot of people have interpreted the roadways to be just the roadbed, and then a lot of stuff was contained just to those roadways, which is why the federal guidance changed to be inclusive of the public right of way. So then that would include sidewalks and multi-use paths and other sort of biotic rights that people have and use.
Yeah, it's just that there's, Mr. Chair, so I'm trying to adjust you as, since I'm supposed to. It's just that there are the state RSAs concerning capital reserve funds that kind of are what they are. And it's unfortunate if they don't completely mesh or dovetail well with other sets of ordinances, but you can't really ignore the state statute for capital reserve funds in which this fund is rounded in.
All right. I'm just looking up roadway. Now, I love your concept. But in Merriam's dictionary, it's the strip of land over which a road passes or the part of a bridge used by vehicles.
Okay, so well, it is a part of a bridge too. So it does get to bridges.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would count on Merriam-Webster.
No.
Or
either.
the,
It was easy.
Yeah, but it's as I said, at least we know that even Merriam says, yes, it's bridges.
Like a legal
right,
dictionary?
so Rob, I would say we could take action on Article 13. That will stand as is. And then the question is whether we add an article that would rename the road construction improvement to the roadway and then
To the right of way.
to the right of way.
Yeah.
And so we'd have an additional warrant article. Are you gonna, you wanna run that by DRA? So that's gonna have to be held in abeyance until next week as well.
Yes.
Agreed. Okay, all right.
So
So
we're
it's,
looking at this enabling legislation right now.
okay, all right. Carl, you had a separate point.
Yeah, so then my other question, and I have to say, we did discuss briefly this idea of merging, having just one capital reserve fund instead of both a bridge and a road in the CIPC committee. But we did not discuss what would ideally be used for the 213,000 would go for. And I can just say that, I'm not speaking for the group as a whole, but what we have spent a lot of time looking at this year are improvements. Yes, the big, Main Street, West Wheelock wasn't on in our scheme to look at, but otherwise it's buildings. We know that later on we were, putting in the 1.5 million to the building reserve fund. But the Howe Library alone, its requirements are 2 million. And those are estimates that are several years old. If you do work on roads, it looks like you're probably going to be bonding, you're talking about the TIP. So I am wondering really whether or not the $213,000 wouldn't be better put into the building fund. Because we already know what the Howe needs. We have some other things on the list. And we know that the facility study is coming out that would say what building that we're sitting in needs, et cetera. Whereas the road capital reserve fund as currently funded is funded at the level that it needs to be for the things that are in the legacy CIP. So that would be, one thing that I would like you to consider between now and next week when you decide on the final configuration. I was also wondering if you could explain the need to designate the select board as agents to expend the fund. Because again, if it has money in it that hasn't been already sort of parsed out for things that are needed, I think there's something nice about going to town meeting and saying, we're thinking about dropping the lane in front of the post office. But if you have the money to do it, sitting in this account, but I mean, it just, I'm just wondering, why are you asking to become agents? And could that be struck?
Yeah, is that, Rob, the Article 14's designation of select board as agents to expend?
Is that necessary?
Is that a legal requirement?
No, it's not. That's an optional one.
I may have gotten ahead of myself. Because Article 12 is the appropriation for expenditure. And Article 12 is proposed
For roads and versus the 28,000.
the 28,000 for road construction.
Right.
So there is no proposed expenditure beyond that, so we can strike that line.
So we will intend to strike the language and to designate select board as agents. Okay.
We would only need to put that language in if we were appropriating it for the purpose of expending it.
But you're putting it for the purposes of.
We're putting it in the capital reserve.
Right, and then my only question would be, and it really is up to the board, where is the best place to put that money? But I can say that coming up, there are so many things that are building related that are not funded. And there are not very many things that are, that would fit into the under $100,000 list of the CIP for road related that aren't already funded. So that would be my question for the board. Where's the best place to put that 213,000?
So if the board were to consider the recommendation that I just heard, you would just strike appropriate, the language of appropriate here and add it to Article 15, if I understood the proposal correctly, and then
Yes.
increase it by 213,000.
Yes.
Okay. So in that eventuality, there would be no need to have an Article 14 as currently written with merger language and renaming.
There is still.
There is still.
Yeah.
Because
there will be now one fund. If 13 passes, the bridge goes away.
okay,
And 14 then becomes the standalone capital reserve fund for roads and
bridge.
road right of way.
Road right of way and bridge. Okay, thank you. And but even though the money is not being transferred
There is money being transferred.
to the unnecessary fund balance, and then okay.
No, there's money appropriated in the capital reserve account, and there's money appropriated for expenditure in 11 and 12.
Right.
Before we just
Yes. go ahead.
take that money out of the road and bridge fund, do we want to maybe talk to Pete to make sure that he
We're already putting 1.5 million into buildings.
Yeah, I can ask. No problem.
I'm just nervous that we may have a
Yeah.
plan for that money.
Yeah, I mean, it never hurts to talk with Peter Kovaci, but you know, you did already receive the however many page report that gives all the recommendations, and you know, we have looked at I mean, everything that's coming up for the next 6 years. And so it's pretty much all right there. And the things that we don't know are the buildings, and because of the facility study that I hope will be forthcoming
We're working diligently.
before long, but we know there are items there, and we know that what's in this report has $2 million worth of needs for the house. And currently there's no money put aside for that, not one penny. And, you know, hopefully that 1.5 could go for that, but that's not 2 million.
I get it. I just,
Yeah.
the guys are on Main Street made me a little nervous a couple days ago.
Yeah. I could comment on that, but that's not a warrant article.
Thank you, Kari.
Okay.
So we are going to need to vote on Article 13. Article 14, we're going to put into, you're going to research and you will also come to us with a recommendation with respect to the 213,000, whether it's better off in buildings. So let's take Article 13.
Did it change at all? It didn't change at all.
13 didn't change. We just-
Okay, cool.
Yes.
We motioned and seconded?
Yes, okay, good, okay, yes, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jenny.
Thank you. Okay, 4 and 1 against. Article 14 is, we pick up,
One absent.
sorry, 1 absent, yes, sorry. Article 15, in light of the dollar amount changing, should we postpone this till the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Yes, okay, Article 16, see if the town approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Select Board and the International Association of Firefighters Local 3288 on March 10, 2025, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level. 2026, estimated increase of $125,859, an increase of $54,400. And in 2027, an estimated increase of $138,250. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $125,859 for the 2026 fiscal year. Such sum representing additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the proposed agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels in accordance with the most recent collective bargaining agreement. Okay, so Rob, this puts us in sync with other unions in terms of timing, but also in terms of level of benefits.
For background, the town and the firefighters union negotiated a 2-year contract with certain components that differed from the other 2 unions and the non-union employees. Some of those differences included bereavement leave, New Hampshire family leave, and dental, and access to the HSA support funding. This negotiation, the contract had a reopener. They exercised that reopener. We went through the process, and we were able to bring them forward with a proposal that brought everybody to the same level of benefits and payments. And it extended their contract by 1 year, bringing all three to a 2027 closure.
Okay. Questions about that? No.
Do we already have a? No, we don't have a motion. I move we accept this as written.
Second.
Do you want to open that up?
Yep. Questions? No. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved for extension. Okay. Article 17. Preceding articles defeated to see if the town will authorize the select board to call one special meeting against option to address Article 14. Is that Article 14 or Article 16? I believe that should read Article 16.
Sorry.
Yep. Cost items only. I would move. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, 4-4, 1 abstention. Article 18.
Absent.
Sorry, yes. Absent.
Last time it was
Yes.
against.
Yes, okay. Yes, abstention, no, absent. Article 18, see if the town per RSA 3198A will vote to raise an appropriate $100,000 in the town's annual contingency fund for fiscal year 2026. This sum to come from the undesignated fund balance. That's where we stand at 100,000.
Yes.
Yes. All right. We need a motion and a second. Motion, I move the second.
Second. Oh, sorry. No, Jared did. Jared did.
Jared did, okay, all right.
So I listened to the tape of when this was discussed. And there was a request of the town manager that should any of these funds be used, that the select board, the governing body, be advised of that. And I thought that was a great idea, but actually the statute requires that the decision be made by the governing body, not that you be advised of it. And although it was suggested that maybe this would be used in case there wasn't enough funding for a compensation study, that's an anticipated use. This is for unanticipated, basically emergency usage. So you have 2.8 million in your undesignated fund balance, and now you'll have an additional 100,000. So in total, you have 2.9 million. The statute also calls for a detailed report of all expenditures from the contingency fund shall be made annually by the select and the select board and published in their annual report. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that this is not sort of a discretionary town manager's account, although I understand our previous town manager sort of thought that wasn't actually the case. It's for emergencies, and it's a decision by the select board to utilize it, and then you report it in a report. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, any further comments, questions? Let's take it to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Little one left.
Yeah, it's a minor one.
Well, we have a couple of additional ones after that. So see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate 33, right? So this is the correct number, 33,475, 838.
So I do need to amend
Okay.
this warrant article, and the reason why is because of the addition of the $500,000 to Article 11. Because this, as it says, as the language says, it represents the funds voted that exclude any of the funds voted in the preceding warrant articles.
So is it 33,975,838?
The other direction, so 32,
Oh,
975, 838.
thanks for doing the subtraction.
Okay, 32,975,838.
I move to,
It is Article 19.
No, 19, sorry. Okay.
I move to bring Article 19 to the warrant as amended.
Second. And you gotta open it and Kari wants to talk.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so, as we know, there's statute that says that the budget is supposed to be available at the hearing or prior to the hearing. And I wanted to thank, for the progress that was made on the dashboard. But 4 of the 12 links don't work. They go to an offsite that requires a password. And so as a member of the public, you can't access parts of the budget, which is not ideal. And then I wanted to, we did hear how we aren't in compliance with our current TIF district, but one way that we could be more in compliance is by including a budget for the TIF district this year. I mean, it would be good to know whether or not the TIF district is paying for itself or if it's relying on the rest of the parking fund or just how it is. And it wouldn't change the bottom line, so your motion would still hold. But I think that it'd be a good bit of information to have the actual budget for the TIF district, since that's one of the things that's required.
That's a supplemental schedule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good idea.
All right.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, all right.
Could you tell me which
Oh,
ones don't?
I know which ones they are. I've already sent them and
Oh.
requested.
With it.
I've requested that they be
Oh, yeah,
corrected, but we can take a card. You know what? I love your input. We can double check and make sure that.
Okay, these are the ones that I could not access.
And I think at this point sewer has been updated, Kari. No. Yeah, so it is.
Sewer's been updated on.
So we need to vote.
Yes, we do. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. It's 4 and 1 absent. Okay, we do have Rob, and I guess, do we want to hold off on the additional articles that were relating to the elderly?
No, I think we should touch on
Should
this.
we talk about this tonight? Okay.
We had, if the board's inclined, we received a request from Kari to consider amending our elderly exemption, our blind exemption, and our disability exemption. And she's provided some support information for your consideration. And I've rewritten the warrant articles. I believe I set a draft in front of you. It was emailed out today. The focus of this is to keep the recipients of this whole. And what I mean by that is so that they don't see an increase in their tax burden once the revalve is completed. They won't see necessarily a decrease in their tax burden, but these adjustments keep them whole at the current level of tax relief. I believe that was the end conclusion.
Yeah, and yes, so, he has missed somebody who's concerned about these property exemptions. It's something that we've done for our elderly, low income. It's means tested, disabled, and then blind, since early in the 90s, if not in the 80s. And it's something that we update every time there's a revaluation, just to keep the benefits basically at the same level, which means that there's no additional burden on the town coffers. At this point, I thought we had 7 beneficiaries of the elderly, but now it is down to 6. We had nobody who qualifies for the low-income disabled, and we had 3, but are now down to 2 who take advantage of the blind exemption. So it's a teeny tiny little fraction, but we talk a lot about affordable housing. And this is a way to not further burden low income individuals who have been in our community, in many cases for years. And by state law, they're required to have been a New Hampshire resident for 3 years, and if the property is owned by their spouse, that they have to have been married for 5 years. So there are many, many hoops that they have to go through. It's just a good thing to update it. I don't know that the finance committee has taken a position on this, but when we last updated it, they supported the update.
All right.
Yes.
Conceptually, I'm totally with you. I just don't understand. Like, could you just take a couple seconds and explain Article 30,
Which one is
that's
this? The elderly. Okay, I don't have it.
Here.
I can try to speak to it.
Oh, or do you want to speak to it?
I'd be happy to.
Well, why don't you speak to it, since I've done way too much tonight.
So the elderly exemption allows for someone in age category 60 to 74 with a qualified exempt amount of $145,000 from their current real estate property holdings. It goes up to $205 for 75 to 79 and $285 for 80 and above. But to be eligible, you need to be 65 and older, have been a New Hampshire resident for the last 3 consecutive years, own and occupy the resident on the real estate as the principal place or abode, either individually or jointly, and be married for at least 5 consecutive years if it's owned by your spouse, have a net income not more than $46,000 for single, $65,000 for married, own net assets not in excess of $145,000, excluding the value of the residence. So you're reducing the value of the real estate property tax by the first 3 bullets, depending on which one of the first 3 bullets, if you qualify under the.
So Rob, so let's just pick the first one, 145 for the 65 to 74. So that is reducing the value, the assessed value of your house or your
Tax burden.
Okay.
Yeah.
The tax burden assessed value.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And I have to say that that increase was suggested by Norm, given that he knows how much on average homes are going to be increasing. So he suggested a 43% increase in the numbers, and then he suggested that we round them and not have it be, yes. So that is how those numbers are, those came to be. I had actually submitted lower numbers, and he said, no, those aren't, people are not going to be kept whole at what I had. So that's his.
Did Norm also for the disabled, which is going from 198 to 285?
Yes, yeah, and if you see, for some reason, the disabled has always been pegged to the age 80 and above. If you look up there, it's the same. It's the same amount. The thing that is different, when I did some research over the weekend, in terms of the incomes, we lost purchasing power between 2003 and now. So there's a 25% increase in the allowable net the maximum net income. But I have to say that that puts us almost exactly even with Lebanon. And they adopted theirs several years ago before the current inflation. So there's, and then for whatever reason in the past, the disability maximum allowed income was lower, also to make administration easier. And there was really no compelling reason why the income levels shouldn't be the same for both disabled and elderly. So those were evened up. That was the other change. But it's basically to make sure that we're using income levels that reflect inflation over the years, and that is basically in line with our nearest neighbors, Lebanon and Lyme.
And what about the blind?
And the blind, is interesting is that it's not needs based, but it is allowed under state statute. And I say those are the least generous of the exemptions. So when at exempting $35,000 under our current assessments, that meant that the town forwent $105,000 in revenue. No, I'm sorry, in taxable property. So about $600. And now that we've gone from 3 blind exemptions down to 2, it'll be $100,000 of property out of what will be 3.8 billion that's not taxable. So again, the impact to our coffers is negligible.
And Rob, did we have this reviewed by council?
We have not yet, but I'm confident that this is.
Yes, I was going to say, so I looked at our 2002 warrant articles, which were very verbose. But doing this research, I did look at other towns' annual reports, and it sort of appeared to me that maybe Rob had found a template somewhere, because the way he has written it is much clearer, a huge improvement over 2022. And so I'm sure that when council does look it over, they will say, oh, this looks like the template that other communities use. That's my guess.
Thank you. Thanks for your work on this, Kari. Robert, do you want to go forward on a vote on this, or do you want to run it by?
I think I'm confident that any change that would come out would be boy, am I
Semantic, not
it would be
substantive.
Scribner's type changes, not content.
Thank you. Then we will need, thank you, Kari. Anything else? Okay.
No, believe it or not. I think and this is really the reason why I came tonight, just so you know.
Kept here all this time. So 3 more warrant articles. They're not numbered, but we can just refer to them as
2021,
They are numbered.
22.
Oh, no, XXX.
they're all 30.
2021.
Oh, they're all 30.
20, 21, 22. Yeah.
Petition warrant article dropped down.
Yep. Okay.
Can we just take them as a group?
I think we have to vote for them individually. Sorry.
All right, well, I move we accept.
Article 20.
Yeah, I mean, we already read it, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah,
we discussed.
Article 20 as written.
Second. Yes, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Already commented, so, okay, all right, Article 21.
Move that we do Article 21 as written.
Second, comments from the public? No, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and 22.
I move we accept Article 22 as written.
Second,
All right, all those in favor?
open this one to
Oh, yeah.
discussion.
Discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, everybody. That is the warrant articles. We are putting this public hearing on hold. We're not closing the public hearing, but we are going to go forward with additional agenda items.
Oh, God, we have one.
Yeah, we're gonna go through this very quickly. Town manager monthly reports, and I'm sorry for the late hour. Thank you.
Let me apologize. Hold on. The touch briefly on the town manager's report, and that is here's where a paper copy would come in handy. Town manager's report is in the packet. I'll touch briefly on the update. We have the burn that took place on Greensboro Road was a success. The house burn training fire drill. Three Hartford, Lebanon, and Hanover participated. It was a great training opportunity, and I thank the select board for supporting that effort. The fire department has one vacancy. They're in the process of recruitment, and they have 3 candidates who are firefighters, one of which is a paramedic, and they're in the interview process with the hopes to bring that closure soon, which will put them at full staff. The planning department, as I think I mentioned at the last meeting, has one vacancy, the rental housing inspector. We have 3 candidates that we're hoping to extend offers to interview with the expectation that the new planning director will have the opportunity after she starts to participate in that interview process. The planning department will then be fully staffed.
So what's her start date?
The 28th of April. I need to clean out an office. The planning department. She has found a place to live and is looking for, and she's met with the department. We hosted a lunch for her last Tuesday with the department, so she meet and greet. She's also toured the building and met most of the buildings here. New hires, building technician Nicholas Wright started on March 31st, hit the ground running. He's filled the vacancy created last month. We have 1 vacancy in the light heavy equipment operator. Our LED light utility replacement is something you'll consider under business requiring action, but we're looking to use some funds to pay for the conversion to LED, and it's our New Hampshire Saves money that would enable us to move that forward. Road bans, spring thaws in place, and all commercial trucking require permitting if in the right condition. Meter replacement, we're at 40% complete. Postcards have been mailed, door-to-door visits are underway.
You should have announced that when everyone was here.
Yeah. Police department, we have 2 candidates completing written exams and interviewing soon for the communications officers vacancies. The department has participated in 2 job fairs, one at Plymouth State, one at Norwich University. And Hanover PD is out launching a new program called HPD, The Voice, a video series will launch soon. They're working on a mock active shooter exercise with Dartmouth College that'll take place in July, and their monthly tabletops are underway as we speak. And they're expanding partnerships with regional agencies and working on tabletop exercises to make sure that all the issues they need to be aware of work smoothly. It's something we do quite regularly with Dartmouth Health, APD, Lebanon, Hartford, and others that we have mutual aid agreements with. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Rob. Busy as always, lots of progress on the human the HR front, and which is terrific to hear. Was there an action required by Pete with respect to the lighting?
That's number 8A.
Yeah, okay. Should we turn to that?
Sure. The memo recommends a motion if you have the memo that runs with it.
Do you have that?
I wish I did. My iPad's battery's down.
I have it.
Okay, Jared's got us, thank you.
Okay, the request is that the select board allocate 27,000. There's a digit missing there.
Oh, yes, there is.
Is it somewhere else in the? Yeah,
27,367.80.
$27,367.78. No,
80 cents.
okay.
Oh, gosh, 80.
Okay, got it.
Shoot.
$27,367.80. New Hampshire Saves rebate to replace the town-owned ornamental streetlights. And in the event the Department of Energy reimburses the town the federal share, the funds be reallocated to other energy improvements approved by the town manager.
Second. Wow.
Okay, I can read.
Discussion.
Robert, those lights right there, that
Yes, the ornamental lights.
we, the whole thing for 27, whatever it is?
We're converting them to LED.
Oh, we're just converting them.
Yeah.
Any discussion around that motion?
It's a good thing.
Yeah, we already moved and seconded, right?
Yeah, that's right, so discussion. Okay, all those in favor?
There'll be a good color temperature.
They will be consistent with our lighting ordinance.
Aye, in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, that is unanimous, thank you. Line of absence.
I move we accept the select board minutes.
We don't have minutes.
Oh.
They were taken out because there were some corrections,
All right, fine.
right?
I take back my motion.
Were they taken out?
They're here.
They're in the packet, but
We received a request from a resident to make us some amendments to certain.
Okay, all right, so we'll hold off on that. We'll
Yeah.
come back to that next week. And then we have 2 items by consent, donation at the library, banner requests.
I don't believe we have the donation.
I didn't see them.
Yeah, the donation from Jerry and Pat Belcombe. $100. This is the previous minutes. Yeah, I didn't see the
Yeah,
minutes.
you're right, it's not actually on the packet.
Yeah, I
Yes.
just have the previous ones.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay.
So we don't have those in the package, Rob, so maybe
We'll get them on the next agenda.
put them in the next one as well. Okay, thank you. Select board reports, office.
Nothing.
We had a downtown meeting, good meeting we did in the afternoon. Anything else for it, so just keep moving.
It's getting kind of late. Yes, all right. CIPC met on Friday, totally focused on the TIF district. I think we heard a lot of what we discussed in that meeting. There was an HFC meeting on the 27th of March. Good discussion around process. They liked our process. So that was good. All right, I'm getting diving into. Jenny, over to you.
On the planning board, we saw advanced zoning amendments to the warrant. Sustainable Hanover is really getting geared up for this Earth Day event on Saturday, April 26th from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Richmond Middle School. And they're gonna have at least 20 different tables of people already committed to coming and sharing basically optimism and action around what people can do to live more sustainably.
Okay. Terrific. All right.
And a conservation commission meeting this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we doing non-public?
Really brief.
I move, we move into non-public session, oh my God. To discuss items pursuant to RSA 91:1:3, Roman 2, A, B, D, E, and L. Gracias, yes.
Or yes.
Callahan, yes.
I would just like to apologize about my phone ringing. There was a little incident outside, went and handled it, and they were minors, so I had to call their parents.
Oh, yeah, no worries, no worries. Good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, officer.
Thanks for taking care of that.
You just sign. Yeah, you did. You just. this-
another one.
Sorry, yeah, I think maybe here.
Did you watch?
I did not get to
Oh,
watch it, but I
my
got to
God.
watch there was an hour-long put up YouTube of the last
Yeah. Hour.